Yes, now everyone, welcome back to the predictions videos, and this week we've got a very big guest, the biggest A-League channel on YouTube. It's Lockie from Coast Watch Football. Lockie, thanks for coming on the predictions video this week. How have you enjoyed the season so far, and have you been to any games yet?
I've been meaning to get to a couple of games. I missed out on the first Mariners home game of the season. I was away for the weekend, but look, this campaign has already obviously thrown up a lot of surprises. We've already had a managerial sacking, plenty of goals, that's for sure. Already some goal of the season contenders. So fantastic start to the season. If we can keep tracking in this way, we could be set for potentially the most entertaining A-League Med season ever.
But before we get into this week's predictions, let's see how we did last week. It's 1 point for a correct result, 3 points for a correct scoreline. There was no correct scorelines last week, but I picked up 5 points for myself, so I take the lead. Joe was only able to pick up 3 points for the guests, unfortunately. So without further ado, let's get into the games. First game of the round is massive for both of these teams. It's Melbourne City taking on Sydney FC at Amy Park. And City, obviously coming off the back of that heavy defeat to Adelaide 6-0. They've sacked Vidicic on the back of that, understandably, in my opinion. And Sydney, obviously coming off that 3-0 loss to Brisbane. If you haven't checked out my vlog for that game already, make sure you check it out. But they're just not creating the chances up front yet, Sydney, are they? Neither of these teams really are. Sydney looked the worst out of the two, and I'm going to go for a Melbourne City 1-0 win. That new manager bounce could help them in this game. Game one, it's an interesting game. Two teams that are struggling at the start of the season. Melbourne City take on Sydney at AV Stadium. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, already proving to be a really intriguing contest, considering that both teams are 0-2 to kick off the season, and the reigning premiers and the reigning Australia Cup winners. So, look, in this matchup, we saw these two teams play just recently, a couple months ago, in that Australia Cup semi-final. Sydney FC winning on that occasion. And I think this could be a chance for Sydney FC to win here. I'm really concerned for Melbourne City. Obviously, the change of head coach there might take a couple of weeks to sort of get the new system up and running there at Melbourne City. Whereas for Sydney FC, I think despite those two losses that they've already sustained, Sydney FC, I think they have enough quality to turn it around. When you've got the experience of Caceres and Burgess and Lolly and Mack, like. I really think they should be winning this game. I think for Melbourne City, they just need to get, their star player, Matt Leckie, back as soon as possible. I'm not sure if he's going to be back for this game, but I can see Sydney winning this game. I'm pretty concerned for Melbourne City at the moment. I think it will be close, though, once again. I'm going to go 2-1 Sydney FC, I reckon.
No chance for a managerial bounce back?
Maybe. Look. Maybe. I mean, like we think back to when like Patrick Isnorbo left Melbourne City, and then oh my gosh, I'm completely blanking on his name. The guy who literally just got sacked. I'm literally blanking on it. Oh my gosh, Rada Vidicic. I just blanked on his name. Yeah, usually I get him mixed up with Dario Vidicic, his son, who I know played for like Wanderers and City. Vidicic got sacked, but like he ended up taking over and kept their success going forward for Melbourne City. So, look, maybe it will happen with Aurelio Vidmar now and Melbourne City. But, I think Sky Blues get the win here.
Yep. Game 2, it's Wellington taking on Brisbane Roar over in New Zealand at Sky Stadium. It's going to be an interesting game. Wellington have a good start to the season, getting that draw against the Wanderers week 1 and then that win against Perth week 2 in the distance derby. Brisbane coming off that incredible performance against Sydney. Will they be able to keep those goals coming? I believe so, even though Wellington have had a very strong defence to start the season. I'm going to go with a 3-1 win here. To Wellington taking on Brisbane over in NZ, a second home game in a row for the Wellington Phoenix. Brisbane have started the season very well. Do you see them winning this game as well?
I like to think so, but I mean, Wellington Phoenix are already proving me wrong. I think they're already proving a lot of people wrong. A solid 0-0 draw in round 1, and then the home win against Perth Glory. I mean, they're a team who I think will be hoping to be really, really strong at home, and I think this is going to be a really tough game for Brisbane Roar. Look, of course, Brisbane showed us, especially in that previous match against Sydney FC, that they're capable of scoring goals. This is going to be a fascinating match. I'm going to say it's going to end a draw, but I think it could be a really entertaining game, pretty back and forth. I'm going to go 2-2.
Game 3, Macarthur taking on Western United at Campbelltown Sports Stadium. It's going to be an interesting game. Macarthur coming off that win against Central Coast Mariners, and Western United coming off that thrashing against the Wanderers 5-0. Will they be able to bounce back? I believe they will. It's not going to come without the questions asked from MacArthur. They look very good going forward. Jermaine, Jed Drew, Holman, they look very good in attack. I think it's going to be a high scoring game. I am going to go with a 4-2 Western United win. Arthur taking on Western United down at Campbelltown. This is going to be an interesting game. MacArthur coming off that result against your Mariners and Western United coming off that massive loss to the Wanderers. How do you see this one playing out?
Again, another fascinating game. I think both teams have quality in their sides, and I was really impressed with Western United round one, but the way they fell apart with Wanderers was just really, really concerning. Defensively, maybe, need to tighten things up a little bit, but in attack, again, like Daniel Pena, Lockie Wales, Noah Botic, when they've got those guys linking up, they're going to be a formidable side this time around. MacArthur FC, though, I think, they'll look at the way that Western were sort of really pulled apart last week against Wanderers, and the Bulls will be hoping to win here at home. I think they do have enough to win at home. It was a good performance away to Mariners to win. So I'm going to tip Bulls here. Let's just go 1-0. I think it will be a narrow one this time around.
The third of the 4 Saturday kickoffs. It's the biggest game of the week. Melbourne Victory taking on Adelaide United over in Amy Park. It's going to be a cracker of a game. Two teams that have started the season incredibly well. Fornaroli coming off those 4 goals against the Jets. There was some questions asked of the Victory defence in that game that I think Adelaide could exploit. Adelaide obviously coming off that thrashing of Melbourne City, 6-0. Iran Kunda, Torre, they've got Bernardo. They've got a great team this year. I really underestimated at the start of the season, and I will put my hands up. I was wrong. But this game is going to be entertaining. I am going to go with a draw, though. I can't really split the teams at the moment. I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. Game 4, possibly the biggest game of the round. Victory taking on Adelaide at Amy Park, the OG Derby. Two teams on extremely impressive form to start the season, both with big results already. It's going to be a cracker. How do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, and you probably I don't think anyone would have picked this out to be game of the sort of one of the most exciting games of the season early on. Melbourne Victory, Adelaide United have just been incredible so far, both scoring goals for fun. This is going to be a fun game to watch. I think Adelaide totally have a chance to come away from this game with a result, considering, Nestori and Kunda is in good form. Bernardo Oliveira scoring goals now. The youngsters there are just so exciting and unpredictable. They could really cause some damage against any team. But, Melbourne Victory, are just looking so good right now, even just a couple games into the season. New players are gelling in well. It's going to be a fun game to watch, but I think just purely for home advantage, I think Victory will win here. If it was at Cooper Stadium, definitely an Adelaide win for me. But for me, home advantage, I think we'll get Victory across the line there. The Victory fans were fantastic, in that game last weekend against the Jets. So Victory here again. I think another exciting game, more goals. I'm going to go 3-2 Melbourne Victory.
And the penultimate game of the round, it is Perth taking on the Central Coast Mariners over at HBF Park in Perth. Perth have had that interesting start to the season. They should have got that win in that first game against the Jets, and then really should have got a point against Wellington. They didn't deserve it, but had a penalty chance at the end. Whereas the Mariners 0-2 to start the season and on the road. Will this spell disaster for the team? Quite possibly, but Mark Jackson will still be trying to implement his style onto the team. It's still getting there slowly, brick by brick. He came to this preseason late. It's going to take time. But once again, I can't really split these teams in this game. I'm going to go for another 2-2 draw. 5, your Mariners taking on Glory over in HBF Park at Perth. Both teams coming off disappointing results. Perth looking to struggle to kind of solidify their defense at the moment. Ollie Sale's made a couple of mistakes. It's going to be an interesting game.
It will be, yeah. And as a Mariners fan, I'm really worried about this one. We do have some mixed form when it comes to playing games over there in WA. Look, I think I've said it publicly. I think Mariners are going to continue to sort of lose games for the opening month or so of the season as the new players, the new coach, sort of everything sort of settles in and everyone sort of gels together. I think it will come good in the end for Central Coast Mariners, but this might be a game where Perth Glory and the home ground advantage might be too much for Mariners. I don't often tip against my own team, but I think Glory will win here at home. Even though despite Glory haven't won a game yet, one draw, one loss, there has been plenty of good signs across both of those games. Look, similar thing could be said for Perth Glory and Alan Stajic. Like they might not be winning many games early on the season, but come December, January, February, when we're deep into the season, they're going to be a really, really strong side. Perth Glory, especially at home. It's obviously a tricky place to go with a long travel. And look, it's a tricky week for Mariners. They've got straight up to this one. I'm pretty sure they jet off to Bali
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
AFC Cup. So yeah, it's a busy week for Mariners. It'd be great to bounce back with a win here, but I think it's unlikely. I think Mariners still looking to sort of find their strongest starting 11. I'm going to say Glory win this one 2-1.
And the final game of the round this week, the only Sunday kickoff, is the Jets taking on the Wanderers at McDonald Jones Stadium up at Newcastle. My Wanderers obviously coming off that 5-0 thrashing of Western United. Lockie Brook getting on the score sheet a couple of times, Milanovic getting on the score sheet a couple of times. Jarrett Hendricks looks very good in that midfield next to Brillante. I would still like to see a bit more from Antonsen. I don't think we've really seen his true form yet, but that will take time. And the Jets had positive signs against a very strong victory side. They scored 3 goals, arguably should have had a couple of more, but it's the defensive worries that kind of don't fill me with a lot of confidence about the Jets this season. I'm going to go for a Wanderers win. I think we'll win this one 3-0. And the final game of the season, Newcastle taking on the Wanderers at McDonald Jones Stadium. Wanderers coming off that unbelievable win against Western United. I was very happy with the performance. And Jets coming off a game that was very open, and there was a lot of good signs from the Jets against victory.
Yeah, I think this is a fascinating game. I'm really curious to see how this one plays out. Newcastle's first home game of the season, and against the Wanderers side, who have looked very, very good so far this campaign, yet to concede a goal. The Wanderers and look like they're going to have a solid defense once again this year, just like they did last year. But yeah, like you said, like Newcastle Jets showed good signs in round 2 and in round 1 as well. I mean, they scored 2 goals against Glory.
Yep.
They scored 3 away to victory. So there's goals there for Newcastle Jets and some of those youngsters like Clayton Taylor scoring, Lockie Bayliss, former Central Coast Mariners, has been looking good for them already as well. So there's ingredients there for Newcastle Jets to sort of establish a winning team. Do they get the result here against West Sydney Wanderers? It's a really tough first home match because Wanderers are going to be, once again, very, very strong defensively, hard to break down in this one. I could see Newcastle winning this game. I'm going to call a Wanderers win, but Newcastle could. I think it would be a surprise to see for Newcastle to win. I think it would be an upset, but they have enough to get it done. But I think Wanderers do win this one. I'm gonna go 2-1.
All right, Lockie, thank you for coming on the predictions video this week. Where can people find you?
Thanks very much for having me on, man. I appreciate it. You can find me at Coastwatch Football on all the social media platforms. YouTube, come hang out with us.
Thanks again for Lockie for coming on this week's predictions video. I'll leave his links top of the description. But who would you like to see next week's on the predictions video? Let me know down in the comments. Let me know your predictions for this weekend's games down there as well. But thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I will see you soon.